How you doing, everybody? Randy Richard in the shop. So in my last video, I mentioned a new project I'm going to do here. Probably try to get it done in just one or two videos, depending on their lengths. I don't want to make it too long. I'll be able to compress a lot of this. But there's some good information. So anyway, this is going to be about bluing, and specifically, it's going to be about rust bluing. Bluing is for trying to prevent rust on steel. It's a coating method to form a coating on the steel to prevent rust. Bluing is not it's not a super durable type of coating. There's definitely other methods to prevent rust. But to make it thin, and not interfere with parts or moving parts and things like that, that's a difficult kind of thing to do. You can't put on paint or some of the other parts, Cerakote, even though they're thin, but you can't put them like where there's moving parts or close tolerances. So they use bluing as a method. Now, like I said, there's lots of different ways to blue steel. But with chemicals, acids to help in the process. But what I want to talk about is the way I do it. I do what's called rust bluing. It's a very traditional method. It's one of the best methods. It gives you one of the best rust preventive bluing methods. It's for rust prevention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing you around. I'm going to show you the parts I'm going to blue. So I'm going to swing you around and show you the parts I'm going to blue. And I'm going to talk about what happens when you're bluing something and the chemical reactions and all that good stuff. So here's my Scribe. This is a brass one. This is one of the very, very first ones that I had made. It's not my original one. That's sitting around here somewhere. Yeah, but it has two parts, or three parts, I should say. This is the carbide, and this one I have a clip on. But the body part, what I call the body, and the handle. So these are made out of brass. It's nice and easy to machine. It really works well on with using the turret and things like that. And the original one I made out of brass. So I thought, well, that's why I make them out of brass. They come out really nice. So if you're interested in one, you always contact me via email. So I decided to try making one out of steel. And this is a piece of 1/2-inch stock. I make the body out of 3/8 normally. So I did one up and I made the body out of 1/2-inch steel because I had a chunk there, and I go, that wasn't too bad to make. And as far as difficulty turning the material and stuff with using the turret, because in the turret I only use high-speed steel tools. I don't really use any carbide tools. So I made that body and put a brass handle in it, and it looks pretty nice. Well, this batch here I just am finishing up on for the bash, so I have some Scribes for the bash. I decided to make a few out of steel. And so I bought some material, some 3/8 and 5/16 material, and I made a few. Now, I only made a few of these. So they came out pretty darn nice, actually. They came out really well, polished up real nice. And now for bluing, you really want to polish things. That's one thing about the surface finish. The nicer you polish them up, the better the surface finish, the better the bluing comes out. The bluing will tend to accentuate defects and stuff. So you want to make it nice if you can. You want to polish it and turn it out nice. Now I polished this. My final sand was with some 240 grit, and then I used some 600 grit to put a nice polish on. And that would be fine. Even the 240 would have been fine, but I wanted to make them a little softer. And so I'm going to talk about what So they're all ready to go here. Bluing is trying to, as far as form a rust preventive, and then the carbide, of course, will be. Well, what's rust? Put in here. Well, rust is iron oxide and such. And bluing is now. What I'm doing is I'm going to be engraving them all. The few I'm going to do, I'm going to engrave prior to bluing. So there's no exposed metal during the bluing process, so it can't rust. So we're going to talk about the forms of rust and real quick, and go over what bluing is. The type of rust that bluing is. It actually is iron oxide. So everybody's familiar with red rust, commonly called red rust. There's different forms of red rust, but I'm not going to go too deep into this about it. That it's an iron oxide. Fe2O3 is one form in water. Then there's oxide, hydroxide, FeO or FeOH or FeOH3. Like I said, there's different forms. Depends on what has come in contact with the metal and things like what can form. But it's usually a red rust. You know, this big bolt here, it's red rust. Sits outside. There's water, there's oxygen, there's air. And the iron, the Fe part of it, the iron molecule of the steel, the atoms, iron atoms of the steel, can form iron oxide. Then bluing. Now this is the indicator holder I made. I blued this. This black is bluing, and this is rust blued. The black is iron oxide, again, a type of iron oxide called magnetite. And it's black. It's not red. So what's magnetite? Magnetite, we're just going to read it right from Wikipedia here. I'll put that back here. Magnetite is a mineral, one of the three commonly naturally occurring oxides of iron. Its chemical formula is Fe3O4. So O is oxygen, so that's iron atoms and oxygen atoms. Together, 3 iron atoms and 4 oxygen atoms to form a molecule. And magnetite is called ferromagnetic. It's magnetic, the black oxide. And you'll find it in the ground. It's called lodestone if you find it naturally occurring as a rock, basically, and it's naturally magnetic. So people found those, and that's how they kind of learned about what magnetism was. That was their first influence in magnetism, was finding lodestones naturally occurring. So how do we turn our surface, instead of red rust, which keeps rusting? Red rust keeps going. It keeps attacking more iron molecules with water and moisture now, and keeps attacking, and it expands and keeps attacking and expands and keeps eating away the material. This is heavily pitted, and that's because of the iron oxide. The type it is. Here, this will not pit anymore. This will be it. Now, if we dipped it in water for a long time, we might get a little bit of rust where it's kind of worn on the edges and things like that. But magnetite will not keep forming, and it provides protection against the red rust. Because what it's done is the iron atoms in the surface of the metal have been converted to magnetite, to Fe3O4 instead of the Fe2O3, right? Let's say we're just going to choose that. That's the most common one, is Fe2O3. So it's changed into a different kind of rust, or oxide. We don't need to call it rust. We'll call the red rust rust. So that's what you're doing, is you're converting the surface iron molecules, Fe, into magnetite. And it's a slow process. This will take, just to do this, will probably take a week for me to do this, because I don't have a hot box, hot humid box or anything. I've never built one. I probably should, but I just use the sun. That's why in the summertime is the best to do this, hot days, and I put it in the presence of moisture, of water, to form the rust. So what we're going to do is we're going to form red rust. The trick is forming the red rust evenly. The more even the rusting, the more even your finish. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some acid to help make it rust into red rust. And we'll get a nice even coating of red rust. Then we're going to take it and we're going to put it in boiling water. We're going to boil it, and that will, with the heat and the water being in contact with it, turns it into magnetite. Now this process is used for protection in a lot of things, not just guns. Steam boilers, you want to form a layer of magnetite inside of them. When you have one open, a boiler, it will rust on you, and it will form red rust. And so it's very important that you form steam at a low temperature steam and allow it to form a magnetite layer. This will prevent the boiler from rusting on the inside. If you get where you don't get rid of all the red rust and don't have a magnetite layer, it won't be protected from rusting. So magnetite is very important in not just guns or tools. There's other processes where you want that magnetite layer as a form of protection. Now magnetite is very soft. It will be very soft. It'll be like a powder, black powder on the surface after you take it out of the boiling water. So you take it out, and then you let it cool, and then what you do is card it, and you take a wire brush. Now you should use a really fine wire brush. This one's pretty fine. They say 2000s, 3000s wire size. But this is just a wire brush, and this is all I use. And that's carding it, and you're going to brush it. And you're going to brush off the powder down to so it's clean again. And the first time you do it, it's going to be really rusted, and you're going to brush it off. You go, "Oh, I'm brushing all that off." Well, yeah, but a little tiny bit remains. And then you're going to do this. Then you're going to do the whole process again. You're going to brush it off, wipe it off, and then you're going to put more acid on to help make it rust. It's going to rust again. And then you're going to boil it again. And then you're going to brush it, card it off again. It's called carding. You card it off again. And as you do this, they will get blacker and blacker and blacker. And what you're doing is you're using up those iron molecules in the surface. You're gradually turning, hopefully, all the iron molecules into magnetite. And that's what you want to do. And the acid you're going to use will take off the magnetite that you're building up. So you have to be very gentle as you apply it, and how you apply it evenly. You don't want to have any real liquid or drops forming on the surface. Holes, threaded holes are real pains. You're going to use cotton swabs and cotton balls and things like that to apply the acid. Of course, you're wearing gloves so you don't get any fingerprints, but also protect your fingers from the acid. The acid's a mild acid. But so anyway, you're going to use up those iron molecules on the surface of the metal and turn them into magnetite. Now, why the finish? If you have a rough finish, there's actually more surface area there. A rough finish will, the rough finish is bumps up and down, right? And all those sides, it actually increases your surface area. So you have more to convert. It'll take you longer to do this. That's why a super smooth finish, there's less iron molecules to convert. Just engraving it added more surface area. But, it's small, but it does add to it. So anyways, that's why the smooth finish. And a poor finish, the blackness, the color will show imperfections. It really accentuates them. So the product I'm going to use is called Classic American Rust Bluing Solution. Now I got this at Brownells. Yeah, one of the gun outfits. The Pilkington Gun Company product. Their instructions are pretty good. Like the steps we're going to go through are pretty basic, and this stuff works actually very well. It doesn't take very much. I have blued a lot of stuff, and I've only used that much of the bottle, like half an inch of the bottle here. And I've blued a lot of stuff with this. It takes so little, it works really well. So, American Rust Bluing Solution by the Pilkington Gun Company. There's a lot of other ways to blue with other chemicals, and they're more of a blackening process where they're actually coating, putting something else in there. They'll put a lot of other stuff in their bluing solution, and I don't know all the chemicals they're using or what they're doing, and how are they really forming magnetite, or if they're really forming more of a coating on there. And it's a cold solution. I mean, I know you dip them in and boom, you take it out, it's black. Magnetite is really is soft in a way, but also what you want to do it afterwards is you're going to oil it with a real light oil, like 3-in-1 oil or anything like that, or gun oil, a light oil, and that soaks into the magnetite, and that will really help prevent rust, because of the way the magnetite will hold those. This is what I use: 1 gallon plastic bottles. These are window washer ones. I just cut out a hole, knife, boom boom, to be able to hang things in. We're going to take the caps off of these, and I've made up some stainless wires. They don't have to be stainless, but that's what I have. And we're going to be able to hang our objects in here. So we're going to put about 1 inch of water in the bottom. So we'll hang our piece in there. There's roughly 1 inch of water, and then I throw a rag over them, and I put them out in the hot sun. It makes a very humid environment, and it will rust very quickly. So here's our parts. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna hang them on there, and then hang them in the bath, or hang them in the chamber. This part will sit on there, just like that, and just hang them in there, and they'll be above the water, but nice and humid. We got some parts ready. Clean the inside with a little wire brush. Make sure the threads are clean. Gloves, a little denatured alcohol, and a solution in my bottles. Cotton pads, cotton balls, swabs, all work. One of the most major things you got to be careful of is drips and runs. It takes very, very little. I mean, you put some of the stuff on your cotton pad or ball, and then it'll be very, very little, and wring it out almost. Really, it's so little it takes, and wipe it in one direction. Okay, one direction, nice and even. We want no fingerprints. That's why the gloves, and it gives you protection because it is an acid. But drips can build up in anything like lettering and any engraving, in the threads, in the holes in these threads. So it's a very dry wipe, and this goes for any time during any of the application process. Going blue hands on you. Sorry, Mike. I'm just using 5mm nitrile gloves. And some cotton, alcohol. Yep, I can see the graving might be an issue, catching some of the fibers. I'm not going to worry about the insides, just more of an outside thing. Really want to make sure those threads, the grooves, any feature to be clean. Oil will screw things up. Just about everything screws it up, but ready to blue. I'm going to use one of these flat pads. Just a little bit on there, and then squeeze it out. Squeeze it so it's just almost like it's dry. But that will screw right in there to hold it, so I don't have to put my fingers on it too much. And now I've squeezed that out so it's basically dry. And we're just going to start wipe. I'm going to take a wire, one of these wires, and we're going to place it on there. Like that. And we're going to hang it in the bottle. So it's on the wire, and we're just hanging them in here in the bottle. So I got 3 of them hanging in there. Now I'm going to do the same to these little ones. I think I'll put a little more of this on, because we're going to have to get it down in the threads. We're going to do the same thing on a wire, and we're going to hang them in this bottle. So I got them in the bottles, hanging in the bottles, and off to outside for a while. Okay, we got them out here in the sun, and we're just going to throw some rags over the top, and that will help make it really humid inside out here in the sun. It's been about 4 hours. And we're going to take these out now. We're not going to do any. We're just going to put more acid on them. But for the first time, it's recommended that you just let them go for 3 or 4 hours with one wipe, and then come back and just wipe it again. So it's just slightly rusted. Just hardly anything. Definitely rusting. Small parts are kind of hard to do because you got to hold them. You can see how they're kind of a bronzy kind of color. They're not shiny silver anymore. Day 2 of bluing. So we're just gonna, these sat overnight. We'll start with these right here, and we'll take the wires off. And what we're gonna do is just take a quick look at them, and then we're gonna go throw them in a pot of boiling water. So I don't want to touch them with my fingers. I'm just going to use a couple old gloves here and hold them up, and you'll see, hopefully you can see how well they rusted. Not shiny at all. Now the first time here, it's going to be kind of splotchy, and yeah, it's not as rusted there. But this, you know what? This will all even out pretty much. Let's see if we can. I zoom it out, and I can hold it up pretty close, and you can see how it's rusted, how much it's rusted. It even rusted down in the engraving, which is right there. It's kind of hard to see, but anyway, these look really good for the first time. Now we're going to go throw everything in a pot of boiling water, and you'll see what happens there. We got some boiling water. We're just gonna grab a couple of these here. While I get them off the wires. So here's a couple, and we're just gonna put them on the wires, lay them in there. We're gonna do this to all of them, just everything, the bodies and the handles. And we're gonna let that boil a little bit, maybe 10 minutes at the most, 15 minutes at the very most. Doesn't take very long. Once you see them all turning nice and black and there's not anything else going on, they're starting to turn, looks like, down in there. Okay, it's been almost 15 minutes and things look, pulling them out, looking at them, they look pretty good. You got to heat them through. I'm just going to pull them out. Lay them on a towel over here. And we can touch them now. I'm going to hold them up there. They're hot. Very hot. We'll let them cool off. Then we're going to card them. What's the fine wire brush. Take a look at them, then we'll re-acid them. Here we go. Cooled off. And I'm just going to start brushing them. Some people use actually, a wire wheel like on a grinder setup, power wire wheel. Real fine wire. 2-3,000 size wire, but I just use this fine wire brush for all these little parts. Now I can touch them now with my hands, and then we'll wipe them down with some alcohol, or you can use a lacquer thinner or acetone. Get any fingerprints off, but it's a lot easier just by your hand here. I know you think they look terrible right now, but be patient. I'll hold maybe against that blue. See, they're shiny, but they aren't shiny, type of thing. It's really hard to tell, but they even already have a touch, just a touch of blueness to them. So all the engraving is kind of weird, so I'll have to make sure I get that cleaned out here. Never blued anything that I've engraved, so we're gonna work through all these. Just the same thing. Okay, they all been carted off, and they look really good for the first time around. They look real good, and even the knurling is coming out pretty good. I'm sure it's going to look a lot better pretty soon here, but it's coming out good for the first time. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to squirt them down with that acetone and Make sure there's no, fingerprints and stuff on them. So they're clean. Get them all wiped. Now we'll do the acid treatment. And then back in the pots. Okay, you can see them all kind of hanging in there. There's about an inch of water in the bottom. Now we're going to put them out in the sun and let them sit for the rest of the day.